Hello viewers, welcome back to Ask Dr. G. In this segment, we're going to lift two of the pointers that he mentioned, and Dr. G, take it ahead.
Thank you very much, Carol.
Yeah. Okay.
Issues around relationships.
Yeah.
When you asked me the question, we began with the emotional gap.
Okay.
We talked about broken boundaries.
Correct.
We talked about unresolved issues in marriage.
Yeah.
We talked about the elephant in the room, social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we spoke about uncontrolled passions and desires. We want to get into the little nitty-gritties of two of those.
Okay.
Let's begin with unresolved issues in marriage.
Yeah.
Then probably we'll get into the boundaries.
Yeah.
And
before you go into that,
sure.
Dr. G, what role does it play? What percentage in terms of breakdowns in marriages does it play?
I'm not so sure I want to rate it at the moment.
Okay.
But what I would say is like a balloon.
Because what I'm trying to say is,
yes,
if we're talking about divorce rates,
yes,
we say 9 out of 10 divorces are caused by infidelity. So,
I hear you. I get you now.
Yeah, now you get me. Yeah. Sorry, I may not have put it right.
Perfect. And I think for me here, and that's why we've had to bring this aspect of unresolved.
Is it a prerequisite to the end, or is it?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
In a way, yes.
It may not be the main
exact
reason,
thing, yes.
But it's a prerequisite.
In a way, it contributes.
Right.
Now, and that's why we've had to begin with this particular one, unresolved issues in marriage.
Okay.
But before we get to the nitty-gritties of the same, it's very important for us to raise it here now that people have to understand that even though you've been attracted to this person, even though this person is, you know, the very ideal person that you longed for, you've got to accept that this person isn't 100% perfect.
Yeah.
There are certain
what you thought they would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are certain things that may emerge, or you may already know, or be knowing, that are in this person, and in the manner in which they handle themselves, handle issues, and handle what probably belongs to the two of you. It could be totally different than you had anticipated. Now, what happens is that many people haven't prepared themselves for such shockers in relationships.
That is true.
And because of that, issues begin being thrown under the carpet. Issues being, they begin being assumed, and as I began saying, it's like a balloon. You've thrown in some air, the next time there's in some air, and with time, without knowing how much air you're putting into it, it blows off. It's a time bomb.
So when we have unresolved issues between couples, I read somewhere that we have two types of people, the ones who are confrontational and the ones who are avoidant. So how do those two personalities, what's their role in, say, in the escalation of unresolved issues?
Let me add two more.
Okay.
You talked about one who are confrontational.
Yes.
And there are those that are avoidant.
Yes.
They avoid.
Yes.
There are those that are resolving in nature.
Okay.
And there are those that are negotiating in nature. There are normally four. You get it.
Interesting.
And
so which one is the best? Is there a best?
A combination of two.
Okay.
The resolve and negotiate.
Right.
All right?
Right.
When we are negotiating, we are trying to understand what was the problem.
Yes.
Where did it begin from?
Yes.
And as we negotiate, it is leading us to resolve.
To the resolution.
To the resolution.
Yeah. So when
those that avoid,
yeah.
or those that are confrontational, what happens is that there is a defense mechanism.
At play.
All right?
Because, say, maybe they're being confronted.
I want to back off.
Yeah, and it's too much for me to bear.
I won't bear that.
And then the confrontational one maybe may not know when to stop.
Limits. All right?
Limits.
And then it may even become physical.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you talk about abuse, people think that physical abuse is worse in relationships. Emotional abuse is terrible. It's worse.
Because you can't see it.
You can't see it. And
but
that's
it's doing psychological damage.
Torture. Exactly.
Damage,
And probably before we drift from that aspect, it's good for us to understand there are many people today in relationships that are in mental torture and in mental problems in their relationships than we can ever imagine. And
I
so you'll find...
I read somewhere that at the moment 1 out of 4 Kenyans has mental health
Oh,
issues.
it was rated. It was rated the other day. They even rated it into the tribes. They even spoke about a tribe that is more in stress,
more
depression, and
to...
exactly.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
And they have already done that rating.
Yeah.
But so, just so we can talk about the unresolved issues and how they're...
Let me not veer off.
Exactly. I began by saying that it's very important for us to understand that there's that weak aspect in us. And why we talk about, initially in the, before we took a break, we talked about not falling in love, but growing in love. When you grow in love with your partner, with your spouse, you get to understand their weak points and their stronger points. Yes. And when you get to understand their weaker points, then you're able to know how to deal with them.
I like what the Bible says. It says, love covers a multitude of sins.
Of sins,
and this
exactly.
is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Covering per se, and that's got to be understood in perspective. Covering
does not mean we cover the bad
exactly.
things, but we try and work on them.
Working on them,
yes.
And trying to know how to deal with them
yes.
in a way that it won't expose or demean someone's personality.
What do you do when you're trying to resolve? One party is always trying to resolve and the other party is shifting away and is not, in a sense to say, cooperative.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carol, there are different ways of resolving conflicts.
Yeah.
And since we all have different personalities, it's normally important that a couple understands that when issues will arise, we'll want to have a way of resolving them. And so the first is not to lead the couple to resolving the issue. The first is to lead the couple to understand the way they'll help themselves to resolve the issue. You know, we can talk about resolving the issue. I can come to the kitchen when you're cooking and you've done a mistake and I'll shout at you and ask you, why did you do that? But all the kids are surrounding us over there. But we will agree that we will resolve our issues at a later date, at an appropriate time, at a proper place. We will resolve. So
is that where emotional intelligence now comes
that's
in?
the thing.
Right.
That's the thing. Knowing how to approach issues when they come. Now,
I remember my mother telling me, when a man walks into the house, you don't start asking him, kwa nini hukufanya hii at the door?
Yes.
You probably won't get the reception you're looking for.
Exactly.
It won't be received the way you want.
Exactly.
So it's very important to then find that balance, to know when to say, what to say, how to say it.
Exactly.
It's very critical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, for now, other things probably can be done in closed doors when talking about resolving issues professionally. Yeah. But on this platform, it's good for us to share with any other couple that agree as to how to solve issues when they arise in your relationship setup. Don't face issues when they arise from no particular, formula. Right? Yeah. Agree together that when we will find ourselves in this, when we will find ourselves having fallen into this or having an issue here, this is the way we want to approach it.
It takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of effort towards that. Yeah. And that's the beginning point. That's the beginning point. Exactly. Yeah. And more often than not, you'll find that many people haven't agreed on how to approach issues when they arise. Yeah. And so it's just that
grappling in the dark.
In the dark. Yeah. And they begin from nowhere, they
and
touch.
That's very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Yeah. So it's good to always know that, hey, we call it diagnosis. When you go to a doctor.
How often do you think couples should be doing this? I feel like
we don't anticipate for problems.
No, when you say we're having a date night, you can then talk about things once a week.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a thing that should be continuous.
And what I advise couples is have dinner outs. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Away from
the normal environment.
Correct.
Where you can be able to now introspect yourselves.
Yeah.
How's our relationship? How are things going on? How do you think we are coping with this and that? And we were having issues before on certain areas. Did we sort them out well, or did we flip or trip? Yeah. How do you think we can do better next time?
But I also feel like if you go into a conversation with the idea that you want to resolve, as opposed to attacking your partner, you're bound to then get a better result. But most people usually come at each other and forget they're on the same team.
Exactly. And that's where we make a mistake.
Yes.
In resolving conflicts, we are not at each other.
Yeah.
We want to look at what was the reason for this to have come up.
Why do you feel like there's this competition in relationships? Where does that come from?
Selfishness.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all about selfishness.
I agree.
And
not putting the other first.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
When you want to resolve issues, seek to find the better part for your partner before you seek to find the better part for yourself.
But it's always, you know, what's in it for me? How will I benefit?
How will I benefit? How will
Selfishness
it almost
is really
becomes
the biggest
exactly.
thing
It almost becomes like it's a win. I want to win and you lose situation.
Yeah.
Whereas it should be, you know, a win-win situation, not necessarily.
If I put you first,
exactly.
Then you do the same thing.
Exactly.
I mean,
we will both find ourselves on a better.
It works.
Exactly.
And we both win.
And so on facial, I would say that in resolving issues in marriage, let couples agree on the approach they make towards any issue that arises. There is so much to talk about conflict resolution because there are many things that surround. I mean, there are three common areas where relationships normally have issues in terms of conflicts. We have sex, we have communication, and then we have finances. And normally I've got principles for three of these. All right.
Okay.
When we're talking about communication, the first principle is don't close the doors of communication. However bitter the situation is, don't close the doors of communication. When I talk about finance,
is that where we talk about stonewalling?
Exactly.
Where you stonewall your
exactly.
partner?
You stonewall your partner, and then you can't be able to break through.
I spoke to a friend who said apparently the wife hasn't spoken to him in a month.
That's the biggest time bomb.
So what? Let's just unpack that.
Right.
Why would somebody not want to talk to you for a whole month?
Again, I'll say selfishness.
Self-centeredness.
You're self-centered. I've been hurt. I feel hurt. I feel broken.
So I'm going to dwell on the hurt.
Let me dwell on my heartache. The only problem with that is that you are hurting yourself the more.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yeah. We're both hurting.
We're
not
both
getting
hurting,
anywhere.
yes. I cannot be able
stuck.
to understand, exactly. I cannot be able to understand the extent of the heartache that you have. And since you've stonewalled me, I'll not be able to come in to help you out to understand, because it may have been a misunderstanding, but because you've stonewalled me,
Is
the
that
end
a
result
little
will
bit
be
abusive? Is that a bit of emotional abuse?
in a way it is.
Yeah.
In a way it is.
I think so.
In a way it is. And so there we go, unresolved issues in marriage. The first principle in communication is don't close the doors of communication. Make sure that the doors of communication are still flowing.
Yeah.
Then in finances, agree. Agree and be as open as possible on your income and expenses.
Openness.
Together, be open with one another.
Yeah.
And that openness leads
The
us
secrets and the loss of trust is really what is the issue
in
all
marriage.
these areas.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're talking about sex, I normally tell people, let's understand sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have it as it had been purposed, divinely so.
Yeah. But
right?
there's so much to it.
So having spoken about those principles and the issues that we have looked at on unresolved marital issues, which is actually, we have actually touched the tip of it. There's so much.
The iceberg.
Exactly. There's much around it.
Wow.
There's so much around it. But again, that will find its way out in another series.
I look forward to that.
Exactly. So now let's talk about broken boundaries.
Okay.
We talk about the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
And
They're
the
very
aspect of territories.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the lion, the king of the jungle.
The jungle.
And how territorial it is. Any other animal trying to encroach into its territory, it will learn to fight back. So they have learned to create boundaries. Yeah. I remember before my dad passed away, he took my brother and myself back home. And he took us round the field to see where our boundaries of our field are. And he told us, hey, listen, my sons, up to this point, this is where our land reaches. Up to this point, this is where our land reaches, and up to this point, and up to this point.
It reminds me when Mufasa took Simba
and
put him on the,
exactly.
on the cliff,
you know,
and told him this is where.
Exactly.
He told him basically they own everything. Okay,
that's the thing.
Right?
Yes. And so there you go. In relationships, we've got to learn to have boundaries within ourselves as individuals. Because I spoke earlier on, remember in the former series, that when we get married and we become one, it doesn't take away our individuality, all right? You have your individuality, I still have my own individuality.
Yeah. We become one in the spiritual sense.
Exactly.
But we're still two individuals.
You're two individuals.
Yes. With different likes and dislikes.
Exactly.
And wants
exactly. I got married to my wife when she had her goals and her vision in life. She got married to me when I had certain goals and visions in life.
Yeah.
So she's got to understand those goals that I have and visions in life, and
you've got to support each other
and support me towards,
Absolutely.
to accomplish them.
Yes.
I've got to understand hers too.
Yeah.
But somehow along the way, we will have to do what we call a balancing. And there will be some little compromise here and there, because she may have a goal of traveling the entire world.
And you may want to start a family.
I'm confined somewhere.
Yes.
So somehow we may have to just have a compromise somewhere. So to agree to disagree, but so that we can move forward well.
Absolutely.
So when you're talking about boundaries, there are those that are within us, and then there are also boundaries out there. When I go out there, how do I interact with people? Now, there are several areas in boundaries where, again, relationship have got issues. Speech. Boundaries in speech. There's boundaries in deportment. There's boundaries in many other things, but allow me to speak on those two. Look at...
I know what deportment is, Dr. G, but other people may not know. How you carry yourself.
How you conduct and carry yourself.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
So in that, there are those who become loose, if I may so use that term, in the way they carry and conduct themselves.
Too fluid.
They're too fluid, either with their colleagues.
And some are too rigid and some are too fluid.
Exactly.
So the idea is to find a balance.
Find a balance that won't make you uncomfortable and henceforth won't jeopardize your relationship with your spouse, whether they are there or they are not there.
So in a way, it's always to put your spouse at the back of your mind.
Exactly.
How would they feel if I spoke to this person this way?
Exactly.
Or if I interacted with this person this way?
Exactly.
And trying to find the balance that you don't curtail your own personality, your own person in that situation.
Figure it this way.
So that you don't lose yourself too much.
Exactly.
In terms of trying to please your partner.
Figure it this way.
Yeah.
Look at our corporate world.
Yeah.
And look at colleagues who have work trips.
Yeah.
Probably are traveling as two different gender in the same car.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Then you're going to book the same hotel.
Yeah.
Then you're going to eat from the same table.
Yeah.
How is the interaction like? All right. Figure it out. You're entering into your workplace and you're greeting each other every single morning. I have had experiences where people say they have found colleagues greeting each other with "Hi, sweetheart," "Hi, honey,"
darling.
"Hi, darling," and some of them go to an extent of probably even kissing each other's. Well, society is different in different areas.
But I found I lived in the UK for quite a while,
Great.
and I felt, and it was such a normal thing to call each other darling.
Great.
Hi, darling. Hi. It was a very, very normal greeting there.
Okay. Okay.
You're right, love. You're right, darling. But then when you come into this African context, our own Kenyan local context,
exactly.
You might still interact with certain people who understand that is just a way of communicating.
Exactly.
Somebody else may take it to mean something else.
That's why you have to lift boundaries.
Absolutely.
And that's why you would be sensitive with boundaries.
Yeah.
And you have
to
also
learn people, and to
learn people, learn your environment, learn your setting.
Yes.
What is appropriate to share? What is, and then the definition of all these words matter. The definition of the same here, just like you've said it. The definition of this word, darling, here could be very different from the way it's defined in another area. And that's why it's good to be very sensitive. Lifting up these boundaries, just so then you're able to be, even though your partner is with you here or not, you're able to be sensitive enough to know that I still carry them along wherever place I am.
Correct.
And lift up these boundaries. So speech, deportment, how we conduct and carry ourselves is very, very important. And still, Carol, probably as we will go on with this series, we'll be opening it up deeper and deeper. Just so we can help ourselves in our relationships, we can help marriages out there. And many people that are entering into many people that are entering into relationships and they become fluid in the way they handle, conduct themselves.
Or you find the way you were, carrying yourself
as a young
person is still the way you think you'll carry on in the marriage. No,
I talk about definitions of marriage. One of the definitions of marriage is that it's a rite of passage. You're moving away from being a young person into enjoying the full privileges of adulthood.
Yeah.
And so as you prepare, as I do premarital counseling, I normally tell young couples that, hey, prepare now your mind to understand that you're moving into full adulthood.
Wow.
And there's a way you've got to conduct yourself, live your life, and know that there are responsibilities on your shoulder that are watching you and looking forward to.
Hold on to that thought, Dr.
Great.
G.
Sure.
Viewers, we'll be back shortly. Please do not move. Welcome back, our lovely viewers. The conversation is great. Dr. G, I'm enjoying the conversation.
Great, thanks.
And while you're enjoying the conversation, please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share, so other people can also join the conversation. Dr. G, we left off at
boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
So please take us forward.
This is my advice
Okay.
for those that are in a relationship setup.
Okay.
And probably for this series, this will be, probably I can call it the final note on it. There are boundaries that need to be created.
Okay.
And couples need to understand that we are living in a corrupt society.
The morals are
And the
really
morals are
down.
degrading, going down
Absolutely.
by the day.
Yeah.
And it all begins first by ourselves as an individual, and then it gets to us as a team, and then it gets out there.
Yeah.
I've got to know that since we are faced with all these arrows against us, socially, morally, ethically, spiritually, if we can so put it, we've got to be more alert.
Yeah.
And that begins on my own self as an individual.
Yeah. A lot of introspection is required. Yeah. Yeah.
How do I respect you enough to create boundaries
Absolutely.
that will do me good and will do us good?
Yeah.
Whether I am with you or not with you.
Yeah.
How can I have my partner trust me enough to have the confidence that whether we are together or not, I have lifted up boundaries for my sake, for her sake, for our sake, just so even when we are not together and we are out there and faced with all these things from all corners of society, my spouse, my partner can be able to walk anywhere free and confident that I know my partner cares for himself, cares for us, and that they have lifted up boundaries so well enough that whether I'm with them or not,
correct,
they are good to go. And so it's an encouragement I give to many relationships. Going forward, look out. And there are many boundaries that I'll talk about in the next series that need to be, to be lifted in a relationship setup. Boundaries that are physical in nature, social in nature, boundaries that are mental in nature, all right? And finally, boundaries that are spiritual in nature. When you lift those boundaries up, you're telling yourself that I care for myself so much, and I care for my partner so much that I have to do this to help this relationship to prosper.
I look forward to that conversation, Dr. G.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I look forward to the next conversation.
Great.
Viewers, I'm sure you've enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Like I said earlier, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Until our next episode, see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.